turn it over to you.
Thanks, Edgar. Thanks, everyone. Great to have this opportunity today. Really excited about where the Houston Dash is in its current stage and state at this point in the season, after coming out of our secondary transfer window and quite a few roster movements over the course of the last season into this year. I believe 13 players in terms of roster changes. And I think right now, starting to see some of the positive effects in the second part of the season.
Thank you for that. We'll turn it over to questions here. If you guys have a question, please use the raise my hand option. Dustin, go ahead.
Hey Angela, how are you?
Hi, Dustin. I'm well, thank you. How are you?
Good. I know we've got to talk to Fabrice and Jason and some others, and there's been a lot of talk about building culture and identity at the club, changing the way the Houston Dash are. What are some of the ways that you guys are doing that, just outside of player, staff sightings, just intangibles, things like that?
Yeah, great question. Thank you for that, Dan. I think that started from day one in terms of when I arrived, and actually a little bit before that, under some changes that were made previously when Eric Ustruck became the interim GM last season. We started with our staff in terms of how we together as a staff build a great team behind the player team, and focused on culture building literally in January. One of the first things that we did when we all came together and reported. And since then, it's been continuous, weekly progress in what does that look like, from Fabrice's leadership with the players to establishing our values as a sporting club and organization, and identifying those types of behaviors that we want to see that build positive team culture on a daily basis from our players as well as our staff. We use visuals around our team environment as well, and it's something that is constantly talked about, top of mind, from our existing full-time staff, as well as bringing in a mental performance coach as well, who is really identifying one of our primary values in terms of trust and building trust, and how we establish that, and what does that look like on the day-to-day, and how does it really manifest on the field as well.
And just one more for me. I know we talked to Fabrice after Lisa signed, and he talked about the recruitment and your scouting. You had a big presence at the Euros. Outside of, I think, a lot of things that normally the Dash did in the past. How big has the change been, and also Ted Siegel's support, and you guys, getting a presence at the Euros or in the WSL, and all these, and looking for players in all these different areas?
Yeah, we're really proud of the team for our recruitment efforts in this past, I'd say, last two transfer windows especially. It's been a really big emphasis and point of emphasis for us in terms of our recruitment department, from elevating Michael Poma and promoting him to the Director of Recruitment and Analysis, to Eric Ustruck, who has been a constant even since before I got here into this season, and really helping to work with Michael on player identification, as well as bringing in Jason Lowe, our assistant GM, as well. We've expanded our recruitment department in terms of our scouting network, adding 4 different scouts to the team as well, and added a recruitment analyst to the squad. So we've really bolstered over a 200% growth in that recruitment department specifically. And that really allowed us to then send and have a presence at some of the major events like the Euros for further player identification, having boots on ground, and really grateful for the support of ownership and Ted Siegel for supporting these efforts, as well as making sure that we were able to bring in the type of talent and players that would identify and resonate with our culture, and helping us to make our goal this season of the playoffs.
Thanks, Angela.
Thank you.
Jenna, go ahead.
Thank you so much, Angela, for taking the time. I know she was already brought up, and I wanted to ask a little bit about Lisa Boateng, a really blockbuster signing for the team, such a decorated player. And I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about her, why she was a target of the team, and what you hope she'll bring, and when we might expect to see her on the field.
Might do a little teaser. She got back last night from her visa appointment, so visa in hand, which was the last part of her process so that she could be ready to play and cleared to play in the league. Really excited about Lisa. Again, kudos to our recruitment team for that identification. You know, when you bring in someone 14 titles at Juventus with that type of championship mentality, we want to bring in players who are experienced, who know what it takes to be successful. And you know, this is a highly competitive league, as you all know. And so from Lisa, you know, her experience, her work rate, her work ethic, her ability to play and play into our system that Fabrice has started to establish with this group. I think she just checks so many boxes for us. And, you know, also it checks our really big box of wanting to be a global destination for women's football with the Houston Dash. And so our ability to bring in diverse talent into this club is something that we were able to see within Lisa.
And sorry, just one quick follow-up. In this transfer window, were defenders a specific target of the team?
Great question, Jenna. Actually, no. We have been focused primarily, especially in this window, on more attacking players. That's where you saw someone like Clarissa Larissy coming in. Lisa was someone who we felt added so much value to our club, even though she wasn't the positional profile that we were, or as I said, positional need that we were identifying as a priority. But some of the shifts and movements, even from you know, Tarsi leaving at the beginning of the year, being able to bring in some more depth and experience on that defensive line was someone in terms of Lisa that we wanted to bring in.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Jenna.
Dan, go ahead.
Thank you. Hi, Angela. Dan Molina from Equalizer.
Hey, Dan.
Thanks for your time today. As you've been through the transfer market and we have the Alyssa Thompson news kind of swirling, I'm wondering what your perspective is, not on her in particular, but on whether players from overseas and even American players, how much they are coveting playing in NWSL as the European leagues continue to grow in stature and invest more money in their clubs.
I think we're at a wonderful time of women's soccer right now when we see players who are developing in our league in this NWSL and being identified globally. We see you know, someone from the Bay, Nashwala, you know, recently announcing her departure. And at the same time, we have players like Lisbeth Ovalle coming into our league, top talent, you know, globally as well. And so I think it's a time that's very fluid because we're in a very highly competitive state in the game and in the sport of women's football. So I think we'll expect to see more players being developed in our league and exiting, but I think we'll also continue to see top players and talent being brought into our league for similar reasons.
Is there anything specific in your conversations with players that may be lacking or a next step for NW to be even more attractive to players to be in the United States as opposed to overseas?
The league does a great job in terms of constant communication. I think surveying, asking players and staff in the league, you know, best practices as well as how we can elevate and how they can support in that. And I think right now we're seeing competitiveness, not just on the field, we're seeing rising salaries and transfer fees, and I think we're highly competitive in that globally. And so I think we'll continue to see this evolution. I feel very confident in how the league is expanding, as well as, you know, really being able to continue to support efforts in terms of pathways, development pathways. I think that's probably been the highest conversation rate that we've had recently on D2 and what does that look like and how are we creating more opportunities even here domestically in this league.
Thanks, Angela.
Thanks, Dan.
Theo, go ahead.
Hey, Angela, can you hear me okay?
Hey, Theo, yes.
Okay. Thanks so much for doing this. I really appreciate your time. I have three questions. First one is if you can kind of give me some more information, almost like a flow chart of what it's like to sign Lisa Votin or Clarissa Larissy. You know, where does the information come to you? Where does it go to someone like Michael Comer? Where does it go to the scout? Like, it's so cool to see all this investment in analytics and recruitment. But can you kind of tell me how all the staff work together
Sure. I think one of the things that I believe in is high collaboration and making sure that we have the right people in place so that they feel very empowered to do what they do best. And that was part of the discussion with Michael Poma early this year, and a large part of why he was promoted to really help lead that charge as our director of recruitment and analysis. It's highly collaborative, so we'll have group conversations, starting with more of the recruitment analyst, Adelaide, our recruitment analyst, who was brought in this year as well in terms of doing the data and matching player profiles with the information that she's provided with, to then providing that to Michael Poma, having conversations with Eric Ustruck, myself, and Jason Lowe, our AGM. We have recurring, especially during the transfer windows, recurring meetings at a high point in those timeframes, to then bringing in our technical staff with Fabrice and assistant coaches. We go through and some of the things that we did at the beginning of the year, Michael and myself, was really sitting down and creating this flow chart and creating this process that we could follow. Also incorporating our medical and performance team as one of those high important components to our recruitment process, which happens at the end. We like to have player conversations with the player and oftentimes their agent or their representative, so that they can get to know us as well as we can get to know them on more of a personal level. We really want to make sure that it's the right fit for the player as well as for the club. And so, making sure that it's a cultural fit, doing those types of, cultural social media checks as well, and making sure, the technical, tactical boxes are some of the things that we've already identified early on. So getting to the, ender and latter stages of that recruitment process is more of the interaction and seeing and making sure that for the locker room, it's a player that really can buy into what we're establishing and what we're building here. And then, the final component is we like to have someone actually being, boots on ground, as I like to say, in terms of seeing a player play, being able to see the things that are off screen and not necessarily captured in video or on the tube. So, we really want to package all of that together to get the best assessment that we possibly can with the resources that we have.
Thank you so much. That was a great answer.
Yeah.
Appreciate all that information. Kind of similarly related to that, but in the opposite direction, we saw two players go on loan to Hucles Mangano. Tell me more about why that club felt like the right fit for their development, and kind of what is their position with the Dash as young players developing.
Sure. Rebecca and Zoe, recently on loan to Ducks Logrono. I think what a fantastic opportunity for them in terms of their ability to further their development, and ultimately they need more minutes, they need more time, and game time to really establish that and to continue their growth. It's not necessarily common to be able to send two players to one club at the same time. I think for both of them, especially being younger players and having familiarity with somebody else, one of their teammates in a different and new environment, was a really special and unique opportunity that we had with a club that's actually really known for their talent development. And their players who have come out of Ducks that have started with them and grown and developed. A player from an African country, you might have heard of her, named Barbara Banda, was also at Ducks and went on to do what we see her doing today. So really excited for them and the opportunity that they have in front of them.
And my final question is on transfer budget. We've seen a lot of fees come in from Houston, from Barbara to Tiana to Tarski at the beginning of the year. Obviously, the lease rate both are classified at this point, but we probably can assume that, especially with a $550,000 budget every team starts with, that there is a lot of money in the bank. Why is it the Dash spending as much as they could, or what is your strategy when it comes to knowing the right time to spend that?
Sorry, what was the last part of your question?
What is your strategy when it comes to knowing the right time to spend all the money you have?
Yeah, I think it's a great question. It's something that's constantly evaluated in terms of having a lot of people not just looking at the talent and the global market, but also what we have in terms of our salary cap management. We have about 5 people who regularly are involved in what that looks like. I think also it's a fluctuating chess game when it comes to transfers and managing all of the different components that it takes to bring a singular player in, and that's just when you bring one player in. You know, a lot of it is really due to what is our priority at that given time. But we're also in a position now where we're not just looking at what the transfer market is right in front of us. We're able to now look out 2 to 3, transfer windows, and so that enables us to be more highly strategic in our moves and our ability to also be flexible to other changes that might come up when other players might be presented to us that we didn't necessarily know we had an ability to bring in. So I think someone like Elisa would be a great example of that. And so our ability to constantly have those conversations, it's constant evaluation on so many different factors, but we also are in a time where, we are looking at the evolution of our league and how rules are changing in terms of the use of certain funds like allocation and when that goes away, but also looking at expansion teams coming in and what they have to use. So we're really needing to, I think, adapt and be flexible to that and have a lot of strategic conversations before we even are talking about what type of player we're going to be bringing in.
Thank you so much again. Really, really, really appreciate that.
Pleasure.
Laura, go ahead.
Hi, Angela. Thank you so much for taking the time. My name is Laura. I'm with Elotes Nation.
Hey, Laura.
The official Spanish voice for the Houston Dash.
Yes.
I'm a sideline reporter, so I get to spend a lot of time listening, kind of like the chit chat of the fans and the kids kind of talking about the Dash. And one of the things that keeps popping up routine their conversation is the team being sold, and kind of like that anxiousness or like kind of like the black cloud of perhaps if the team gets taken out of Houston, which is something that I keep kind of hearing, which is something that might or might not happen. But with that said, how do you keep the players concentrated and motivated and keep the Dash culture growing in the fan base, being interested in the team?
Yeah, I think right now we're really excited about the interest in the Houston Dash and during this process. And I like to go to one of the staples of playing in terms of, we can only control what we can control, right? And so I think for the players, for the staff, we are business as usual, and we have the goal in front of us, and we have our objectives and the things that we are looking to accomplish, and so that's how we show up day to day. I think for this, I've heard Ted Siegel himself say, there's no intention to move this team out of Houston. So I think that's something that we obviously feel good about, but also the interest in this process, I think, is something that we're excited where the future of this club could lead.
For sure. Thank you so much. And
My
a
pleasure.
follow-up question. I know that there was a lot of excitement, when we've had homegrown players coming to the Dash and be part of the team. Is there any intention of perhaps in the future, near future, having other homegrown players be part of the Houston Dash, or perhaps also bringing players from Liga MX or from South America?
Yes, I think that's something that's constantly part of our conversation in terms of how we construct our roster. It's exciting. It's exciting to have a player, from our own backyard joining the Houston Dash, and I think it's obviously all the things I spoke about earlier in terms of how many different pieces go into that process of talent identification, but also bringing in a player into our environment. But to reach some of the goals and objectives in terms of being that global destination, being able to bring exciting players into this environment and for our club and our organization, those are definitely areas that we are constantly on our radar and being evaluated.
Thank you.
Anything else here for Angela before we wrap up? Okay. Thank you again, everyone, for joining us. We'll have this and additional items available later today. If you have any additional questions, feel free to shoot me an email. Thanks again for jumping on.
Thank you.